When Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, stepped into Paris Fashion Week this October, the entire energy of the fashion world shifted. Paris, the city that lives and breathes couture, paused, cameras froze, mid-click, and eyes turned, because when Meghan walks into a room, she doesn't just attend, she transforms it. And that's exactly what happened when she arrived at the Balenciaga show. Poised, radiant, and unapologetically powerful. She was elegance and strategy personified. But of course, as predictable as ever, the media vultures and the bitter commentators of what I like to call Abandonment Island couldn't handle it. They couldn't stand to see Meghan commanding the spotlight that naturally belongs to her. Suddenly, everyone from online trolls to irrelevant stylists wanted to throw in their unsolicited opinions, desperate to attach themselves to her shine. Because the truth is simple. Meghan Markle remains the headline, the moment, the story. Everyone else? Just background noise. Now, let's talk about this latest little storm stirred up by stylist Phillip Bloch. Someone who, once upon a time, worked with names like Halle Berry and Jennifer Lopez, but today seems to be scraping for relevance by gossiping about Meghan's clothes and who might have paid for her plane ticket. According to him, Balenciaga spent around $250,000 on Meghan's Paris appearance. From travel and hotel to couture looks and security. He even threw in a little jab, saying she likes her freebies. Let's pause right there. Why is it that when Hollywood celebrities or supermodels are invited to shows, it's called a business move? But when Meghan, a duchess, a global humanitarian, a woman who redefined royal influence on her own terms, attends, it suddenly becomes she's begging for attention, or she loves freebies? Isn't it fascinating how the double standard always seems to find its way back to Meghan? Phillip Bloch claims that Meghan was likely flown private to avoid leaks. Well, of course she was. Meghan's every move is stalked by tabloids. We all know the British media would have had a field day if her location leaked before the show. So, if Balenciaga ensured her safety and privacy, that's not vanity. That's basic security for one of the most high-profile women in the world. Let's not forget, this is a woman who has endured years of tabloid abuse, coordinated smears, and a global harassment campaign simply for existing, for breathing, for shining. Yet she walks into Paris Fashion Week unbothered, glowing, wearing couture that reminds everyone why she's a force of nature. And that's what's really driving her critics mad. Because while they talk, Meghan works. While they mock, she manifests. And while they dig through rumours, she builds empires, quietly, gracefully, and powerfully. Now, let's examine the real dynamic here. Meghan's appearance wasn't some desperate PR stunt. It was business. This was the Duchess reasserting her brand on her own terms. With Jill Smoller, the powerhouse agent who also manages Serena Williams. By her side, Meghan wasn't just attending a fashion show. She was setting the tone for a new phase of her professional life. A phase rooted in ownership, image control, and luxury with purpose. Balenciaga, on the other hand, had a lot to gain. After facing a massive scandal in 2022, the brand needed a reset, a new image that signals class, credibility, and forward-thinking reinvention. And who better than Meghan Markle to help embody that? Meghan represents rebirth, resilience, and renewal, everything Balenciaga needed to communicate. That's why her presence wasn't just glamorous, it was symbolic, it was restorative. And yes, let's be honest, Meghan absolutely got an appearance fee. Of course she did. This is not 2016, this is Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, global icon, brand builder, and mother of 2 royal children. Brands don't invite Meghan, they invest in her. They pay for the privilege of having her front row. But let's also call out the subtext of Phillip Bloch's comments, that little sneer when he said she likes her freebies, or that she needs to keep the lights on in Montecito. That's not casual gossip. That's misogyny, laced with jealousy. Because Meghan is everything certain people can't stand. A woman who walked away from the institution they worship, built a life on her terms, and still outshines the entire royal machine from thousands of miles away. Let's not pretend that Bloch and his peers don't understand how this industry works. Celebrities are always flown in, styled and accommodated by the brand. That's how Fashion Week operates. When Zendaya sits front row at Valentino, when Rihanna attends Dior, when Kim Kardashian arrives at Balmain, the brand covers everything. But no one accuses them of taking freebies. So why the hostility when it's Meghan? Because she's not supposed to win. Because they want her to stay small, quiet, defeated. But Meghan is none of those things. She's evolved into something much greater, an independent brand of grace, intellect and global power. And let's talk about her look. That all-white couture ensemble. Clean, confident, modern and unapologetically feminine. It wasn't just fashion, it was messaging. White, the colour of renewal, peace and inner strength. The same woman they tried to destroy is now defining the fashion conversation in Paris. And the next day, when she appeared in all black, that was the statement of dominance, of command, of control. Meghan knows what she's doing. She's curating her image like a seasoned strategist. Every angle, every step, every glance, calculated to project confidence and class. Meanwhile, her detractors are still recycling the same tired talking points from 2019. Still obsessed, still bitter, still shouting into the void while Meghan builds her legacy. What Bloch and others don't seem to grasp is that Meghan's influence isn't transactional, it's transformational. When she aligns with a brand, she changes its energy. She brings authenticity, compassion, and modern royalty. She connects with audiences that brands desperately crave, women who value independence, integrity, and purpose. That's why Balenciaga, after their scandal, needed someone like Meghan. Someone who can humanize their rebirth, not just glamorize it. And this appearance was no coincidence. It's a prelude to something bigger. Meghan's been quietly reshaping her public image this year, launching her lifestyle brand, planning impactful media projects, and signalling a return to public-facing work that merges influence with intention. Her Paris Fashion Week appearance wasn't just about clothes, it was about re-entering the global stage with purpose, reminding the world that Meghan Markle doesn't need a palace to command attention. And while critics like Bloch laugh about keeping the lights on in Montecito, Meghan and Harry are building generational wealth. Through Archewell, through partnerships, through purposeful branding. They're not living off the crown, they're living off courage, intelligence and authenticity. That's power, that's independence, that's freedom. Let's also talk about the emotional undertone here. The same press that once tore Meghan apart for daring to wear an off-the-shoulder dress is now forced to cover her as the fashion moment of the year. The same tabloids that painted her as irrelevant are now running breathless stories about her Paris appearance. That's poetic justice. That's the power of living well. And behind every photo from that night, every flash, every whisper, there was a silent truth echoing. Meghan won. she walked away from the monarchy, and somehow she became more regal, more magnetic, and more relevant than the entire institution combined. Now, let's imagine how this played out behind the scenes. Picture the PR rooms of rival stylists and royal reporters, the panic, the jealousy, the envy. Meghan's face dominating every timeline. Balenciaga trending for the right reasons for the first time in years. Editors rewriting their coverage plans. And in the background, Meghan simply smiling, calm, collected, radiant. She doesn't need to say a word. Her presence says it all. Phillip Bloch's little comments? That's noise. But what it really reveals is fear. Fear that Meghan's back. And this time she's unstoppable. She doesn't chase relevance. Relevance chases her. She doesn't beg for headlines. Headlines form around her. She doesn't need to justify her seat at the table. She is the table. And if we're being honest, this Paris appearance was a masterclass in soft power. Meghan didn't have to clap back at her critics. She didn't have to make a statement. She simply walked into one of the most exclusive events on the planet, owned it with grace, and left the world talking. That's power no smear campaign can touch. So, the next time you see headlines about how much Balenciaga spent, remember, Meghan wasn't spent on. She invested herself into that brand's redemption arc. She elevated it. She turned a brand plagued by controversy into a platform for reinvention. And she did it all while looking like the very definition of effortless royalty. Because Meghan Markle isn't playing catch-up, she's setting the pace. And for all those who still doubt her, remember this. The same woman they tried to silence continues to command the world's attention with a single appearance. That's not luck, that's legacy. So, to our Royal Sussex Squad family, what we saw in Paris wasn't just fashion, it was a statement. It was the Duchess reminding the world who she is. Unbothered, unapologetic, unforgettable. And that's why we stand with her. Always. Stylist Phillip Bloch. Balenciaga spent about $250,000 on Duchess Meghan's appearance. Last week, I noted that the Duchess of Sussex's appearance at Paris Fashion Week on October 4th would become a weeks-long story as abandonment issues aisle screamed and cried about it. I compared it to the weeks-long trauma of Meghan looked hot in a red dress last year. God, they were absolutely furious about that red dress. But I think Meghan's PFW appearance was even bigger. It was global. She got international headlines, and it was the celebrity appearance of Paris Fashion Week. What I didn't predict is that Meghan turning up for Balenciaga would upset some of the bitter bitches who work with other labels and other celebrities. Well, stylist Phillip Bloch had some thoughts about Meghan, Balenciaga, and whether an appearance fee was involved. Jaws dropped when Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, swanned into the Balenciaga show in Paris last week. But don't worry, she didn't break her own bank to get there. While the brand's new design head, Pierpaolo Piccioli, claimed Meghan reached out to him and said she'd love to come to his show. She didn't spend any of her money on it. In the past, designers used to pay celebrities and big names to sit in their front row. And while that practice has fallen by the wayside, brands will shell out big money to get the celebs and their entourage to their shows, put them up, house, feed, and dress them. Uber stylist Phillip Bloch, who has worked with Halle Berry, Salma Hayek, Jennifer Lopez, and Nicole Kidman in the past, told me, "I would imagine everything was paid for. Travel, hotel, clothing, cars, and of course security in Madame's case, because we know it's such a big issue with her." Bloch estimates Meghan's all-white couture ensemble that she wore to the actual show, and the all-black ensemble she wore a day later, cost at least $50,000 each. Gifted, of course. She does like her freebies, Bloch said, and continued that she was likely flown private, as if she had flown public or first class, it would have let the secret out. Someone would have seen her and said something. It was a genius move for Balenciaga, to help them rebrand after that whole pedophilia fiasco. In November 2022, Balenciaga released 2 advertising campaigns that sparked major public backlash for featuring disturbing images, showing young children holding teddy bears dressed in bondage, BDSM gear like leather harnesses and straps, amidst props like empty wine glasses and champagne flutes. The campaign sparked outrage online, with hashtags like Boycott Balenciaga trending. The brand's creative director at the time, Demna Gvasalia, eventually stepped down earlier this year. The Paris outing was also a good idea for Meghan, Bloch told me. She needs good press. He laughed. She hasn't played the fashion card in years. It's an easy way to get attention, and she has the credentials to bolster it to be an epic event. And it was. It's also smart for Meghan, who is leaning now towards becoming an influencer, promising shorter online how-to videos as opposed to longer shows with Netflix, which have bombed, and to eventually get paid to be the face of a brand. That will keep the lights on in Montecito, Bloch laughed. From News Nation. It's going to turn out that Bloch wanted to style Meghan or work with Balenciaga, and he got turned down, right? Either that, or he was working with someone who attended the Balenciaga show, and that celebrity got zero attention because Meghan was there. That's the vibe I'm getting from his interview, utter bitterness. Anyway, I thought it was obvious that Balenciaga picked up the tab for Meghan and her team for the appearance. That's literally why Jill Smoller, Meghan's agent and Serena Williams' agent, was along for the ride. It was business. But I also think Meghan got an appearance fee. The problem for Bloch and all of the other stylists and publicists is now all of the other major labels are going to want Meghan at their shows too. They want those headlines, they want that heat and attention. Incidentally, here's what Pierpaolo Piccioli actually said about Meghan to New York Magazine. Before we wrap up, I want to thank all of you for being part of this incredible community, a space where truth, compassion, and real analysis thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and if you'd like to support independent commentary that tells the truth about Harry and Meghan, please consider donating via Super Thanks. Every contribution helps us keep shining light on the truth and countering the hate. Because as long as the tabloids lie, the Royal Sussex squad will always rise.